The applause was thunderous, but none of it reached me. I stood at the podium, fingers trembling on the edge of the lectern, staring out at a sea of faces, none of which looked back with pride. Not even hers, especially not hers. Marie sat in the third row, center aisle, same navy blazer she always wore for important days. Her lips were pressed into a flat line, arms crossed over her chest, and for a split second, I wondered if she'd even clap. But she did, once, maybe twice, the kind of applause you give a stranger, not a best friend. I was valedictorian. Out of 150 law graduates, I ranked first. I had waited 5 years for this moment, fought through mental breakdowns, isolation, the whispers, and the silence. And now that I was here, standing in full regalia, gold cords draped over my shoulders, diploma in hand, I felt nothing, except watched, not admired, scrutinized, as if every eye that once celebrated my victories was now searching for cracks in the foundation. I had always imagined this moment with Marie beside me, whispering, "I told you so," and wiping tears from her face. But instead, she was the first to look away. Then came the message. My phone buzzed quietly beneath my gown. I shouldn't have checked it, not while they were still reading my name. But I did. Everyone knows it should have been Yaina. You don't deserve this. No name. But I didn't need one. The punctuation alone told me everything I needed to know. Norman never used periods. Fred couldn't spell deserve. And Matt didn't have the spine. That left one person. Yaina. I looked across the aisle. She was seated with the honors cohort, second in class, gown perfectly pressed, smile polished like a campaign poster. She waved at someone behind me, then looked directly at me and smiled wider. I turned back to the stage. The dean was still speaking, but his voice was miles away. My ears had narrowed to static. My hands were cold. It wasn't the message that hurt. It was the certainty that they'd been planning this for weeks. Quiet little fires passed between group chats and glances, and I had been too focused, too naive to notice. Marie didn't look up again. Not when I walked past her. Not when I bowed. Not even when I choked back tears while thanking my professors. That night, I deleted our group chat. Fred, Norman, Matt, Steve, Alex, and Marie. 5 years of inside jokes, drunken debates, shared outlines, and midnight breakdowns. Gone in one swipe. Yaina wasn't in that thread. She never was. She preferred private messages, subtle poisons. That was the night I stopped being a friend and became a threat. We met during orientation week, Marie with her too-tight bun and aggressively color-coded notebooks. She sat beside me during the dean's opening remarks and offered half a granola bar when my stomach growled mid-speech. By week 2, we were inseparable. She was charming, organized, sharp-tongued, and knew exactly when to laugh to make professors like her. I was quieter, hungrier. I didn't come from a legacy family or a long line of attorneys. I came with student loans and a chip on my shoulder. But Marie never made me feel lesser. Not at first. The group came later. Fred, her boyfriend at the time, was loud and liked to dominate every conversation. He cracked jokes that made everyone uncomfortable but laughed so hard at his own punchlines. You'd think you missed something clever. I didn't like him. But Marie insisted. He's not so bad once you get used to him. So I got used to him. Then came the rest, Norman, who always played devil's advocate in every argument. Steve and Matt, the inseparable comic relief duo. Alex, who was always half in love with himself. And finally, Yaina. Brilliant, soft-spoken, strategic. She never said much, but when she did, everyone listened. Especially me. We formed a study group after midterms. That semester, out of 150 students, 3 of us ranked at the top. Yaina, me, and Alex. It changed everything. Suddenly, what began as group study sessions turned into subtle battles for control. Over professors' attention, over extra credit slots, over internship recommendations. Alex took the first shot. During second year, he asked me out. I declined politely. firmly. He told people I had been flirting, that I led him on, that I was only trying to climb the ranks by using him. I confronted him once. He just smirked and said, "Should have played along, sweetheart." After that, I stopped sitting next to him, but the group didn't. They laughed it off as drama. "Don't let it get to you," Marie said, brushing my pain aside like lint on a blazer. Yaina stayed neutral, or so I thought. In our third year, the competition between us sharpened. We were always neck and neck. Moot court scores, research publications, bar prep simulations. But she was graceful, always pretending not to care about rank. "I'm just here to learn," she'd say, as if she didn't track every decimal of our GPA updates. I admired her. I also feared her. It wasn't until later that I realized Yaina never truly competed. She manipulated the race. She sent professors quiet notes about deadlines I'd accidentally missed. She mentioned offhand that I seemed burnt out in front of the internship director. Subtle, untraceable, and I kept brushing it off. Because we weren't enemies. We were friends, weren't we? But then Fred started spending more time with her. Study sessions that didn't include me. Inside jokes that didn't land with anyone else. Marie noticed too, though she never said it out loud. When she and Fred broke up, she told me it was mutual. He said, "I'm not wife material," she whispered, eyes red. Whatever that means. I wanted to comfort her, to rage on her behalf. But deep down, something about her reaction felt rehearsed. The next month, she was dating Fred's older brother, and laughing louder than ever. That's when the group began to dissolve. Publicly, we were still tight. But the messages became shorter. Inside jokes faded. I stopped getting tagged in event invites. And when I made it onto the dean's academic panel, not one of them said congratulations. Yaina made a joke in the group chat. "Guess being boring finally pays off." Nobody laughed. Nobody defended me either. Marie didn't text that night. Fred liked the post. Norman sent a thumbs up. The silence was louder than any insult. I told myself I didn't care, that I had law reviews to finish, bar exams to prepare for, that friends were temporary, but the license would be forever. But even the strongest foundation begins to crack when the people you trusted start handing out hammers. It started with a rumor, just a whisper at first, told by a junior I barely knew, mumbled over coffee in the law library. "I heard you're obsessed with Fred." I blinked. "What?" She backpedaled quickly, said it was probably just gossip. But something about the way she avoided my eyes told me she wasn't the first to hear it, or the only one. That night, I messaged her privately. She told me Fred had been telling people I had a crush on him, that I'd been chasing him for months, that I'd gotten jealous of his relationship with Yaina and couldn't let go. I stared at the screen until it blurred. My stomach turned. Being falsely accused of desiring Fred, the most narcissistic, manipulative person I had ever tolerated, wasn't just humiliating. It was disgusting. It was designed to smear me where it hurt most. My credibility, my professionalism, my integrity. I called Fred. No yelling. Just facts. "You told people I'm into you?" He laughed. Then gaslight. "You're taking things too seriously," he said. "You know Marie used to say stuff about you too, right? Don't be so sensitive. I've done so much for you. You should be grateful." Grateful? We had barely exchanged more than 10 sentences in the past year, most of them laced with sarcasm. I hung up mid-sentence, and I blocked his number. I didn't scream. I didn't retaliate. Not yet. I just shut down. That week, I got a call from one of the senior attorneys managing a bar prep workshop, a mandatory component for our license submission. "Why aren't you attending?" he asked. I wasn't invited. He sounded confused. "Yaina told me you weren't interested." The words hit like a slap. Yaina had been the workshop's student coordinator. I had trusted her. I had assumed the silence was administrative. But she had lied to my face and behind my back. And if I had missed it completely, I would have lost my chance to qualify for the bar that cycle. I showed up the next morning without a word, smiled, took notes, sat 2 rows away from her. She waved when she saw me as if nothing had happened. Sweet as ever. That night, the senior attorney texted again. We're forming a new student committee under the state bar. Would you consider joining? You've shown great leadership, and well, valedictorian says it all. For a second, I hesitated. Something about the past weeks made me question everything, even my worth. But I said yes, politely, professionally. 3 days later, I received an email. My name had been quietly removed from the committee. No explanation, no warning. I found out through a classmate that Fred had been appointed interim chairman and had strongly suggested I not be included. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went for a walk in the rain. I sat at a bench outside the courthouse and just watched the windows flicker. For the first time, I realized something no one had said out loud. They weren't done with me. This wasn't about petty jealousy anymore. It was calculated, coordinated, and dangerously effective. The next day, I received a message from Yaina. Everyone is surprised you're part of the new committee. Honestly, you don't deserve it. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied, noted. She sent another message seconds later. LOL, chill, it was a joke. But it wasn't. None of it ever was. I didn't answer Yaina's joke. I didn't even open the chat again. But something inside me snapped, not with noise, not with rage, but with finality. That night, Marie called. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. Fred told me you're still upset about the committee thing. He's willing to move past it if you apologize. It's not a big deal, really. I didn't respond right away. The words had weight, but no substance, like she was reading from someone else's script. She continued, look, I get it. You're under a lot of stress, but Fred's trying. You're kind of making this bigger than it needs to be. My hand tightened around the phone. You're saying I should apologize. She paused. He said you've been cold, distant, that you're starting rumors. There it was. Gaslight, repeat, erase. The same pattern over and over. Only this time it wasn't just Fred. It was Marie too. Marie, I said slowly. Do you remember what Fred said to you? The night he told you you weren't the kind of girl someone marries. Silence. Ido, he whispered. Because you called me sobbing. I was the one who picked you up from his place, remember? Her voice dropped. That was a long time ago. He's changed. No, he hadn't. They had. The next morning, Norman messaged me privately. No context. No greeting. Please don't ever ask to be added back to the group chat. Everyone hates you. They just don't say it to your face. I read it again. Then again. I stared at the words until they blurred, until the nausea came creeping up from somewhere deep and familiar. I didn't answer. I didn't block him. I just powered my phone off. And I cried, the kind of crying that makes your whole body ache. That leaves you hollow, wrung dry. I sat on the floor of my apartment, still in my blazer from the workshop, mascara smudged down my face, hands shaking from the sheer weight of the silence I'd been carrying. I had done everything right. I had worked harder than anyone, played fair, stayed silent when they twisted the truth. I had stayed loyal until there was nothing left to be loyal to. And after the crying came the cold. Not the sadness kind, the calculated kind. Because I remembered something. It was 6 months ago. Final season. I was leaving the law library at midnight when I saw them, Yaina and Fred, tucked into a corner near the student lounge. Her hand on his chest, his lips on hers. They didn't see me, but I saw everything. Back then, I had promised not to say a word. Yaina cried and begged. Marie can't know. It was a mistake. Fred laughed it off. Boredom makes people weird. Don't be dramatic. I never told Marie. I never told anyone. Until now. That night, I pulled out my old phone. The one I hadn't touched since first semester. The one that still had the screenshots. Yaina had sent them herself. Photos of Fred flirting with other girls. Voice messages of her sobbing, saying she hated herself, that she didn't know how to walk away. And one blurry but damning picture of them kissing. I opened my laptop, typed out a timeline, dates, messages, screenshots, context, no names, just facts. I uploaded it all to the university's anonymous forum for legal ethics, a place where students reported inappropriate relationships, power abuse, and professional misconduct. It wasn't gossip there. It was evidence. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. They would know. By morning, it had begun. The first ping came at 7:42 a.m., a text from Matt. No greeting. No context. Was that you? I didn't answer. At 8:16, Norman reappeared in my inbox. This was low, even for you. By 9 o'clock, Marie called twice. I let it ring. Then she texted, "What the hell did you do?" What did I do? I told the truth. Finally, brutally, without apology. The post had already made its way across every group chat by then. The screenshots were time-stamped. The messages were real. Yaina's voice cracking in a voice memo. He doesn't even love me. I'm just a distraction until Marie forgives him. Fred's text, bragging about having both sisters wrapped around his finger. They weren't just careless. They were cruel. And now exposed. By noon, the post had over 400 views. Comments started piling in, some shocked, some outraged. One from a faculty member. If this is true, it violates multiple student conduct clauses. Another from a junior. I always wondered how Fred got away with so much. It didn't take long for Fred to respond by disappearing. He blocked Yaina on everything, deleted all his social media accounts. Rumor was he tried to claim the screenshots were fabricated, but too many people had already seen them, including Marie. She sent me one last message. You waited for the moment it would hurt the most, didn't you? Yes, because they didn't just hurt me. They tried to destroy me, professionally, emotionally, piece by piece, under the illusion of inside jokes and passive-aggressive texts. They wanted to push me out quietly, so I screamed in their language, receipts. Yaina, meanwhile, crumbled publicly. She posted a story, just a black screen with the words, "I'm sorry." Then another, a quote about forgiveness. Then silence. Later that evening, I heard through a mutual that she'd gone to the dean in tears, claiming she was being harassed. She didn't mention me by name. She couldn't, not without exposing herself further. Fred stayed silent, which in itself was an admission. And the others? Norman deleted his snarky messages. Matt left the group chat altogether. Steve and Alex unfollowed everyone. Only Marie stayed online, posting inspirational quotes and pretending nothing had happened. But in private, they were spiraling. One junior emailed the bar prep office, asking whether a student involved in academic sabotage and personal misconduct could still hold positions of influence. Another anonymously forwarded the post to the ethics board for review. I didn't lift a finger. I didn't need to. They had lit the match when they lied about me, when they whispered behind closed doors, when they told professors I was unstable and too ambitious for her own good. All I did was open the window and let the smoke pour out. And yet I didn't feel triumphant. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, watching the city lights flicker beneath my balcony. My inbox was quiet, my phone finally still. It wasn't victory I felt. It was weightlessness, not joy, not vindication, just the release of everything I'd been holding in for far too long. And somewhere in that silence, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Fred, not at Yaina, not even at Marie. I was just done. Done chasing friendships that fed off my silence. Done apologizing for being smarter, sharper, or simply unwilling to play dumb. Done letting people weaponize proximity against me. A week passed, then two, and slowly their world imploded. Fred withdrew from the bar prep committee without explanation. No farewell message. No replacement announcement. Just a quiet vanishing act, like he had never been there to begin with. Yaina stopped coming to workshops. I heard from a faculty assistant that she requested mental health deferment. Some said she was planning to delay taking the bar. Others whispered she might drop out entirely. No one really knew, but no one reached out either. Marie didn't speak to me again. She returned to her performative positivity, sunset quotes, curated smiles, #healing hashtags. But people noticed. They always do once the filters crack. Her reputation didn't shatter, it just faded. Quietly, gradually, like a song no one requests anymore. And the rest of them, Norman, Matt, Steve, Alex, they did what cowards always do, disperse and pretend nothing happened. But I knew they remembered. Every time someone looked at them too long, every time a professor brought up ethical leadership, every time a new student asked, "Weren't you friends with?" As for me, I graduated. I passed the bar. I moved out of state without saying goodbye. The firm that hired me wasn't glamorous. It didn't have skyline views or marble floors, but it was honest, small, focused. A partner there had read my published note on professional misconduct during law school and said, "You seem like someone who understands boundaries." I laughed when I read the email. He had no idea. Some nights, I still think about them, about how fast things can unravel, about how people you once trusted with your worst fears can weaponize them the second your name outshines theirs. I wonder if they ever missed me, if Marie ever looked at our old photos and paused, if Yaina ever regretted it. But those thoughts don't linger anymore. They visit, then leave, because I'm not angry, not bitter, not even proud of what I did, just clear about what I deserve, clear about the spaces I will no longer shrink myself to fit, clear that sometimes the most powerful kind of revenge is exposure, not to destroy, but to illuminate. I didn't burn their house down. I just turned on the lights and let them see the mess for themselves. Now, when I walk into courtrooms, I walk alone, but not lonely. My circle is smaller, sharper, real. No more Marie. No more performative friendships. No more group chats where my silence is treated like a flaw. Just me, my voice, and the truth. And for the first time in years, that feels like enough.